Hi and welcome to a new tutorial. On this particular one, I want to talk about raw and how powerful truly is for drum bass and for enhancing drums, bass sounds, and just giving them that extra polish and final touches really that's just going to make these sounds really pop in the mix and just make them sound really full and fat, which is really important. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Hector. I produce under the alias of Hektagon and I've been teaching for the past 16 years and producing professionally as well. So if you're interested in my services as well, of course, have a look at the description below. Please subscribe if you like the video and leave us a comment and tell me what you think. Okay, so let's crack on. So what I've got here is I've got an example of just a loop with a few sounds. I'm using one of the synths I've been working on. This is the resonant synth, and I'm using this just to generate a bassline type sound, which is kind of like more like an acid bassline, a little bit of reminiscent of like the Ebras and optical days. And also what I've got here is I've got Operator creating like a kind of like a counterpoint sort of sound. I've got a Vox vocal here, which I'm also using a little bit of raw just to enhance it. And kind of like a melodic sort of like texture type sound which I'm chopping with AutoPan basically. So let's have a listen. If we listen to the drums are like this. And without the effects would be like this. And then also I've got the bass line here. I'm gonna take raw off. This is the one that makes the biggest difference. So you can hear the brightness and energy. It's a massive difference on that. So I'm gonna work on the drums first and then just work on the bass line. One thing I like about raw is the fact that you can split the signal into 3 different bands. It just works exactly as a multi-band dynamics. So basically here you can split the signal into highs, mid and lows, and you can adjust the threshold for each one in terms of the frequency. So it's the same thing here in raw, so we can adjust the lows and the highs. So I'm gonna just go and say the lows are gonna be 100 Hertz because I really wanna enhance the low end of my kick, just give it a little bit more oomph. And then I'm just gonna keep the highs maybe like somewhere around there, where I probably would just solo the highs just to have a listen to them really, in all fairness. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So as we can see here, I'm using raw as well as a way to kind of enhance the transients. So what I'm doing is I've got an envelope follower here. If you have a look at the mod sources, and this envelope follower is reacting to the movement on my drums. As you can see there, I'm setting the envelope follower to control the amount of shaper here. So that can make the punch appear to be a little bit more pronounced, right? Because the shaper amount will react to the dynamics, right? So if you got a punchy kick or a punchy snare, it's just going to really add more of a transient bite, so to speak. One of the things as well I will suggest people to do when they use raw is to solo or mute the other bands so you can focus on individual bands and then apply distortion to each band and then blend them together, if that makes sense. And the other thing I don't like doing is using the compressor, because the compressor just kind of flattens the dynamics. So I just tend to turn that all off, and the sidechain I turn that off completely. I just want to make sure that I hear the sound of the distortion right away without being compressed afterwards. Okay, so I normally just take that off. Have a listen to the highs. Let's see what we can do with the highs. Normally, like what I do is I turn the shaper off so we can hear them by themselves, because the shaper already adds a little bit more presence anyway. So you can see here I'm adding noise, but what I like to do for the highs is add a little bit of noise generally, just to give them a little bit more flavor. I'm gonna open the highs a little bit higher, just gonna go much higher in here. So I just want the hi-hats, really the really high end of the hi-hats, not the snare so much. And then I'm just gonna increase the level a little bit here and potentially just dialing the amount. So it's a little bit of movement. You can see it's quite organic sounding, and the noise is really nice. It just adds a little bit more grit on the high end of the sound, can work really, really nice. And it's one of my favorite ones, really, the noise injection. is really good for bass sounds as well, as you will see in a minute. The other thing as well we can do with the mid-range, and that's one of the things I like doing, is listen to that. So that's more sort of like the snare, right, and the kind of like transient for the kick a little bit. So with this, there's obviously you can explore different shapers, but one of the ones I like using is called shards, which basically adds kind of like, it's like a really interesting sort of distortion that adds a little bit of like stereo width as well. It's very, very subtle. I'm just going to increase the amount. I don't know if you can hear this kind of movement left and right. Very nice, very subtle, very nice character. Obviously on the string settings it really cuts through. With this, is less is more, really, in all fairness. And then let's have a listen to the lows as well. One thing as well that you could do, of course, for the highs, if you want it, you could have the highs, and if you felt that was a little bit too prominent, you can also just kind of like use the filter here to soften it, right? So that's another thing that's really handy, the fact that you have filters built in. And of course, it's not just filters, we got all these different ones, but I'm not going to go into those for now. Just going to keep it basic for this tutorial. What I like to do to the lows is just give them a little bit of warmth. And let's have a listen to that on its own. If you don't have headphones, you're not going to be able to hear much, unfortunately, so please put headphones on. Okay, so that's the shaper here. The one I find that gives it the kind of like the biggest warmth to the sound is the diode clipper. I'm just going to bring it up a little bit in the amount. You can hear it right away. Let's turn that off for a minute. This gives a little bit more oomph, right? We could have a high pass filter, and then we can bring the frequency all the way down, and then just use the resonance to enhance the lows if we want it. That's maybe too much, right? Because it's already quite punchy. But just so you're aware, you could potentially do that in order to enhance the low end. And another thing I'm going to do as well, I'm going to turn down the drive. Because sometimes when the drive is really high, it's just like, it kills the dynamics a little bit. So, and then let's just turn raw off. So you can see that that sounds a little bit underwater. Not very defined with raw. You got a little bit more presence, right? The presence comes from the highs, and the kind of like extra presence as well, and the fatness comes obviously from the lows, but the mid have a massive effect. You can hear it the moment I turn the shards off and on. With any effects in Ableton, it's worth looking at the input and output, and I think levels are okay before and after. Turn it off and on. There you go. I think that's the sort of sweet spot. Massive difference. You can really hear the widening as well on the punch. Let's have a listen to the acid bass sound. So with the acid bass sounds, I'm just going to add raw here, just so we start from the default preset. Again, remember to kill the compressor here. Just because I just don't like the sound to be squashed after raw, because sometimes it's like you think that it's sounding good and you're just hitting the compressor and it just doesn't sound right anymore. I'm gonna just maybe start from the high end of this lead sound or bass sound. I like that energy here, maybe a little bit lower. Yeah, I like that. And then I'm just going to, again, I think generally speaking, noise is really good for the highs, but another one as well that you can use if you want to add a little bit of flavor to my liking is the beat crusher. The beat crusher can add like beat depth distortion, and it basically can make the sound a little bit thicker, a little bit obviously more lo-fi. So let's have a listen. Just adds a little bit of extra noise. Can you hear that? Which is quite nice, I think, in a very subtle way is nice. Let's have a listen to the mid-range here. That's nice. Let's go into the lows and make those, just extend the range. I like that. And let's just have a listen to this one. So on this one, I'm going to go for the shards as well, just to sort of give it a little bit more of stereo width and a little bit of crunchiness. Let's have a listen to it. Not too much, because you can see it kind of, I don't know, I don't like that. It just sounds a bit too distorted. A little bit is nice. Let's have a listen to the low end. So let's just take the mids out. That really sounds quite fat. Let's just add, I don't know, let's explore the different models. I'm kind of like gonna try the tube preamp. Let me turn off the sidechain as well, because we're hearing the sidechain happening. Turn it off and on. Yeah, that one is killing the lows. Can you hear that? So the tube is not really doing it for me. Let's go into the diode clipper. I love the sound of that. This gives it much more fatness. A little bit of amount. Nice. And then let's have a listen to the whole thing, right? So let's play that. Let's turn that off. It's much more dirty, isn't it? Like, you can hear that being really, really crunchy. Kind of underwater, isn't it? Again, it's very, very subtle, but it works really, really nicely. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching the tutorial. Again, there's going to be some exciting news coming up soon. As I mentioned, I'm building my own synthesizer, which I've been working loads on as well. So this is going to be pretty good for me. Starting from this week, I'm going to be doing beta testing and stuff like that. So we'll keep you in the loop with that. But I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I didn't want to make it too specific. I just wanted to kind of like show you my approach to it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments, and on to the next video. Take care, everyone.